Welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization Show, the home of Googleization Nation, where we talk with HR and business thought leaders about the crazy, never normal shift going on all around us. Our goal is to bring you ways to reimagine tomorrow and explore the ever-changing convergence of people, business, and technology. Here is your host, Ira Wolf.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization Show. Thank you for being part of Googleization Nation. I'm Ira Wolf. If you think this is just another podcast, think again. This is the voice of the most important conversations on the future of work, confronting business leaders and people today. My goal is to bring you ways to reimagine tomorrow and explore the ever-changing convergence of business, people, and technology. Once again, I'd like to thank Avanti for sponsoring this episode of Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization. To download their 2024 Everywhere Work Report, go to adaptabilitytoolkit.com/2024 Everywhere Work. I'd also like to encourage you to visit the Avanti.com website and watch the keynote addresses about the future of work recorded at their recent Avanti Solutions Summit. They're well worth your time. You'll find the link in the show notes. On today's episode, I got a real treat for you. It will be an epic showdown you don't want to miss. In this ever-changing and increasingly unpredictable, never normal world we're living in, two mighty warriors stand tall at the forefront of leadership: adaptability and accountability. As the future of work unfolds, this clash of titans becomes more significant than ever. Picture accountability and adaptability as superheroes with their own unique powers. But which one is most important for the future of work? The winner will likely determine who grows and who thrives versus who stagnates and struggles to keep up. Well, today I'm diving deep into this epic battle with Jeff Matlow. We're going to explore the complexities of these vital skills beyond mere personality traits and clickbait headlines. So buckle up, because I suspect it will be a wild ride. Let's get started by introducing Jeff. Jeff Matlow is a relentless entrepreneur, leadership coach, business leader, author, podcaster, and just this week was named as a top leadership coach by LinkedIn. And let's not forget that he's an Ironman too. His latest endeavor, he champions accountability. Jeff stands firm on the belief that integrity, responsibility, and reliability are the bedrock of true leadership. He's here to argue that without accountability, success is just a flash in the pan. He's a 3-time entrepreneur. He built a product, service, and SaaS business, each of which were acquired by large media conglomerates. He now focuses his time on coaching female executives and entrepreneurs to become more inspirational leaders. He's the author of the Best Leadership Newsletter Ever. Yep, that's the name, the Best Leadership Newsletter Ever, which creatively looks at your daily behaviors to transform your life. On a personal note, I'm really impressed with how quickly he attracted over 11,000 subscribers. And his podcast, the Best Leadership Podcast Ever, are short lessons on how to improve leadership. Jeff began his career in the music industry, where he worked with such artists as James Brown, Everclear, and the Black Eyed Peas. He founded the record label Crank, which was subsequently acquired by the Universal Music Group. Let's welcome Jeff Matlow to the Googleization Nation stage.
Thank you for having
Jeff.
me. Hello. I was listening to you thinking, who is that guy? And it sounds really good. And I expected like a Bruce Springsteen fan like applause when I walked in. So maybe we could just put that in the post.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I forgot to do that. So there we go. We'll do it. We'll do it a minute late.
There we go. Thank you. My dreams have come true.
We got it. We nailed it.
I love it.
Yeah. Jeff, so everybody heard your background. Accountability. You've had a fascinating journey, and as many of us, I came out the back end of it talking about change and adaptability and reflecting back, where many people, as an older baby boomer, and sometimes even older Gen X, basically go into retirement, and it's like, I'm done. I'm done with change. I'm just gonna ride out into the sunset, enjoy life. I chose a different path, and I'm in the thick of it, and trying to figure out at a crazy time. You sort of came out at this back end, and I got a couple of years on you, but you're now at the point where you're really focused on accountability.
Right.
So how did you get to that point? I mean, give us a little bit of a background how that surfaced as this is the main issue I'm going to conquer.
Yeah. So it all started with me really sucking at accountability, and I actually I put on a free masterclass about this. I talk about my story in it, but it I was when I started my first company, I had absolutely no accountability, right? To not holding other people accountable. So I just assumed that everybody would just do their job. And when they didn't do it the way I liked it, I would just do it myself. So I had 5 people working for me at that company, but it was really just a one-person company. And I was working nonstop. I couldn't, there was nothing more I could do. So I built that company about as much as one person can build it. And then I started thinking, I honestly, we may need a couch here for me to talk about all my problems. But I sold the company, and I felt like it was a failure, like I was a failure. And so I started thinking through, like, all right, how could I do better? And I realized I'm really bad at motivating people, or I felt like I was really bad at motivating people to get the work done. I could come up with a vision. I knew where we're going, but I couldn't get there. I can't get there on my own. And so I ended up over a few years actually coming up with what I call the 4 simple secrets of accountability at work. And I started using it. And my next companies did better and better. And then I realized, I would sell the company to, as you said, a large media conglomerate. I'd bring this process into the corporate environment, and it worked. And so all of a sudden, like, productivity increases, and companies, Fortune 500s, growth stage companies have taken this on. And so I am very much about accountability is important. It worked for me. I'm, patient number one, and it works for other people. And so I am strong on it. And that's how I came up with it.
Yeah, it's so interesting how our it's many of our focus, many of our passions and our purposes and what we focus on become it's really as a result of our own therapy.
Right. Completely.
What did we
Completely.
struggle? What did we struggle with, and therefore it must be good for everyone else. So I've got a question for you. You mentioned the 4 steps. I don't know if you can reveal those because I know that's part of your master class, but you're offering a master class on accountability. So
Yes.
this is just a curious question: is most I don't see people wake up in the morning and saying, I'm going to take a class on being more accountable.
Yes.
I mean, but most people think they are accountable. I mean, that they are responsible. They're honest. They're doing the best they can. How, I guess, who's coming? Who's taking those classes? Are they coming to fix other like me? Is like they participated in all the programs I've done over the last 30 years because they wanted to fix someone else. It
Yes.
wasn't them. It was like,
Correct.
so even going back to your story about being a leader is I realized that I wasn't accountable to anybody and I needed to do a better job. Most people seem to say everyone that was working under me wasn't accountable. Why didn't people just take that initiative and be highly motivated and inspired just on their own?
Right. Yeah. And so my class and my accountability work is going under the assumption that everybody in their own mind is perfect and that all the people that work for them are terrible and are doing the wrong thing. And so it's let's help you fix those people. Now, accountability is a crazy big problem in corporate America. In fact, I think it's 79% of leaders want to be more accountable, and the same, that their employees want them to be more accountable as well.
I wonder what that would be in Congress right now.
Yeah, yeah, right?
And how many people are saying, "Hey, we want to be more accountable."
Yeah. My first thought would be it's 110%, but I feel like it's more around zero. Uh,
Yeah, we
the
won't go down that road.
Yeah, well, I was going to say let's not get a political conversation on this one. Um, but one of the biggest challenges that leaders have is delivering consequences. And they fear accountability. They think that word means yelling at people or scolding them or getting into conflict in some way. And that's what I teach them, is that there's actually no conflict in accountability, and accountability is not a bad thing. People want it. Like, if your kid draws on the walls, are there consequences? Yeah, there are. So why don't you do the same thing at work, right? Like, if somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to do, something should happen. And it doesn't need to be yelling. It can be teaching. And there are there are four parts of the accountability process. You need to know what one clear outcome. You need a deadline date. You need one person who is held accountable, and you need immediate consequences. And so there's a process I go through to define each of those. And if you do the first three right, the consequences take care of themselves. And people, that's the beauty. We're going to talk about how you're wrong about adaptability shortly, but that's the beauty of accountability, is people want to be in the comfort zone. They want to know where the guardrails are, and accountability allows leaders to set up the guardrails.
So let's bring in an adaptability. So we're in this world, I call it the never normal world, which seems to be more true every single day, unfortunately. I started talking about VUCA, which was volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, and that seems to be the definitive definition of the world we live in. But people couldn't remember that, so I just came up with never normal. But we're living in this unpredictable world, and it seems that, at least from my impression, and this actually may not be the Smackdown that we reported, but it might be more of a synergy, that people aren't taking accountability for the change that confronts them. It's becoming more and more challenging. The threat of AI taking my job, so we need to do other people need to do something to regulate or stop AI. And there are guardrails we should put up. There's no question with AI.
Yeah, absolutely.
But progress isn't going to change. The toothpaste is out of the tube. I just got confirmed on something I've been talking about for at least 20 years, that two-thirds of all jobs will be one-third automated. And at one time, the optimistic abundance viewpoint of that was, we won't have to work as hard. It'll be automated. Right. We'll be more productive, and the 26 hours every week we'll get done what we used to do in 40 hours, thanks to technology and automation. And we know that's not going to be true. It never has been true. We'll just fill the vacuum and fill the space, and there's just too many problems to be solved. But people aren't taking that accountability. It's like, no, it's going too fast, so that's somebody else's problem. Or I'm only 5 or 10 years from retirement, and it won't be my problem. I'm just trying to eke out my day, and that's for the kid.
Yeah, this is interesting because the music business peaked in 2001, and I was fortunate. My timing when I sold my record company was about right before the peak, and I have since been brought in to talk to leaders about what happened in the industry and how it is copied in many other industries. So what happened is technology was coming around late 90s, right? And the CEOs and leaders of music companies felt like we own the content. Like we have music. Technology, we say what technology is going to do. Technology doesn't tell us what to do. And then Steve Jobs in a snap took over the music business, right? It crumbled. And iTunes destroyed the music business. And so, or the industry as we knew it back then. And there's part of I think you're right. There's adaptability and there's accountability kind of go together. My problem with adaptability, so going back to the music people, they were not adaptable. They were not open to understanding changes happening and trying to figure it out. They also didn't hold themselves accountable to what their primary purpose is, which is to continue evolving in this industry. One of the biggest challenges I have with what many people consider or leaders consider adaptability, especially entrepreneurial growth stage leaders, is continually changing priorities, right? And I'm sure you've met these entrepreneurs. In fact, you're talking to one right now, right? Like there's the bouncing red ball. Here's our priority today, but wait, that I read that on the internet last night, and so that's going to be our priority tomorrow. And that is bad. That's really bad. And that destroys the growth of companies. In fact,
that's really interesting because when you talk, is it accountability or adaptability, or is it lack of focus? Is the focus, I want to create a startup, I want to be successful, or is the focus that we want to as in Steve Jobs, is we're gonna put change the world of entertainment. He really wasn't. He created an entertainment industry. Everybody thinks it's a technology company, and it really, he was in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, what's amazing to me, and I talk about this as like the greatest con ever, is that people still call this a phone. Nobody uses it as a phone, right? Like, and the fact that he positioned it as a phone made it think like, oh yeah, I could use a phone, but I barely use the phone on the darn thing, right? So I think wait, you said, what did you say? I had a really important point
about focus. I said,
yes.
Is it a lack of focus, or is it a lack of accountability, or is it a lack of adaptability?
So one of the secrets about accountability is that accountability is not the problem. I'm giving away everything right now. Accountability, the problem is decision making and fear of conflict, right? And so decision making, it is the leader's job to decide what the priority is. And so that, that comes with focus. And that's where accountability comes in, right? You can't have accountability if you're bad at deciding what the priority is and then maintaining that priority. And yes, sometimes priorities change, but that means dates change, right? Effectiveness changes.
But doesn't that get back to really having a well-defined purpose? And at minimum, it's what your goal is. But on a broader sense, sometimes the goalposts can change, or the path to getting there can change. But there's still, how do we create that you're guided by a purpose? It's in the old days when we used to talk about vision, the difference between vision and mission. People would say, aren't they the same thing? And I go, no. You're never going to land on the sun, but you could reach the mountaintop.
Right. Yeah. So, purpose. Now let's I think we can agree on this. For a for-profit company, the general purpose of a for-profit company is to grow and make money. Like that's the only purpose the company's around, right? And so it is the leader's job to make that happen, to make sure that the work that happens is growing the company and making more money. Now, at the top level of leadership, their job is to create that purpose. So let's overlay a purpose of doing good for the world. We need to make more money to do good for the world. We need to sell more phones or whatever it is, right? And because we're going to improve everybody's life. Then, but that's just about motivating. That's human motivation, right? The goal is growth and more money. And so, yes, as long as there is that purpose, I agree that that's needed. It is, I talk about companies needing to get from here to there, right? You need to define where there is, as you said, right? And so once you know where there is, then you can create the path to get there. And that's your purpose. Our purpose is to get there, wherever there is. But yeah, without that, you can't have priorities. It doesn't matter.
So going back to our Smackdown, our adaptability and accountability Smackdown, even wrestling with it. And this started all with me trying to even write an article about it. I mean, I saw what you were doing, and it's like, no. I mean, in order to be, as I said earlier, in order to be, what I struggle with is people not taking accountability to become adaptive, to change, to go with the flow, to learn a new skill, to unlearn a skill, to try something new, to not be afraid of failure. And this goes, and it even goes back. You spoke at my class, the innovation and entrepreneurship class. 18 to 20 years old. The one thing that they all learned at the end, although they said I'd have a better understanding of entrepreneurship and innovation, what that is. The one universal thing that they all said that they learned was that they needed to have less fear of failure.
Yeah.
Which in some ways is taking accountability, because they, even when they were in your class, and one thing is, are they always this quiet? They always get like such, they all had questions to ask.
Yeah.
I have 4 guest lectures. They all had at the end of every one, I said, any questions? No, everybody answered it. The first thing they wrote 5 minutes later on their feedback is, I wish I would have asked this question.
Yeah. Damn kids.
It's adults too.
Yeah, it's fear. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and so that's part of that fits somewhere in this in the accountability, but it also fits in the adaptability, because if people aren't willing to take those risks, to take that change, to ask the questions, not just to be curious, but to have the courage and confidence and the ability to actually ask the question that they don't know, then nothing really changed. Then they're not going to change.
Right. Yeah. We got a problem in our society of, judging our insides based on other people's outsides. Because somebody looks like they're confident, we feel like, okay, I'm less than because I'm scared. And actually,
that's funny. Actually, I just got quoted in a Forbes article, one of those expert panels yesterday, and the question was why what advice could you give entrepreneurs who quit too quickly?
Yeah.
Which is
so the article for next Monday in my newsletter, I actually wrote yesterday. I compare humans to traffic light, right? There are 3 types of people. There's a red light person, a yellow light person, or a green light person, right? The red light people, you know them, we know them. They're the ones that always complain about stuff, right? They're what I call problem admirers. They see a problem or they create a problem. They never want to find the solution. They'll just complain. Then there's the yellow light people, who are most of my coaching clients, who want to go a little faster, but they're scared. They're like, whether it's self-doubt or whatever, imposter syndrome holding them back from actually getting out of their comfort zone. And then there's the green lighters, which I think you and I fall into, which is, yeah, I have fear, but I'm going to do it anyway. Listen, I can't stand failure. I hate failure. I don't want to put myself in a position of failure. That's why I became an entrepreneur, because I can reduce the risk by taking it all into control myself, right?
Well, I guess going back to being an Ironman, how many times did you say, I can't do it anymore?
10 years. I said I was going to do an Ironman and I didn't do it, and I was too scared. And then one day I decided I'm going to do it. And like, life's too short. And then I realized, this had such an impact on my life, is I think my body can only go so far. And then you do an Ironman and you realize the power that's in the human body, right? Emotionally, physically, mentally, and because you go through all those 3 in an Ironman race. And it's pretty powerful. And I don't think you can't recognize how far you can go until you go far, right? And you have to stick your hand through that fire and believe that you're not going to get burned, even if you fail. That's fine. But it's really hard to do.
Yeah,
So,
it's interesting. I just met for the first time the co-founder of AQAI, the Adaptability Quotient company that I work with. He flew into New York and just went in on earlier this week, and had dinner with him. And he was just at a summit. I believe it was Joe Dispenza, but it basically was talking about the neuroscience. And for years and years and years, they've said, at least in my lifetime, they've said that 10%, that we only use 10% of our brains, which goes back to what you were saying, is that we think we're at that max,
right?
But there's 90% more potential, and our brains control all our other functions, and most of it's mental challenges and mental barriers that we put up, mindset issues that get in the way. And he talked about where they're taking people into different states, and I know I'm not going to get this right, because this was just this just is him interpreting that, and I haven't had time to really investigate it further, but is that they're taking people into these meditative states where they're actually able to like even improve strength versus somebody working for 3 to 6 to a year at losing weight or building strength, that they're able to do it within minutes.
Wow.
And create and confirmed by creating the same release of enzymes and hormones that the person who worked that hard to create that, the adrenaline and the cortisol and the serotonin and all of that, they were able to mentally create that same impact and build the same strength or whatever they were trying to build during that same period of time, which, going back to what you said, is just that we're under you. We think we can't go any further, but you can, because we've just accepted the fact that 10% is the cap.
Right. Yeah, no. And I think that's, first of all, I fully believe in kind of meditative therapy. I have a friend who's a meditation therapist. And I feel like, there's a lot inside us, and the voices in our head hold us back. Mm-hmm. And I actually love the example of Roger Bannister. Roger Bannister is the first person to break the 4-minute mile, right? And before he did that, like there was scientific reports that came out that said humans can't do it, they'll die, right? Like everybody believed it was not only impossible, but it was life-threatening to run that fast. But the beauty of Roger Bannister is that he dared to think differently and to do it anyway, right? And so nobody broke the 4-minute mile for ever, right? He broke it, and within like 3 months, 12 other people did, right? Because he proved that he elevated everybody's expectations of what the human body, or what they can do. And so, the power of the mind, I think, we don't recognize how much it's limiting us on a day-to-day basis, and limiting who we are, how we act, limiting us seeing opportunity or creating opportunity. And I fully, this is a whole different non-Smackdown, but I talk about it a lot.
Good. Jeff, we're going to take a quick break. You've been listening to Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization here with Jeff Matlow. We're talking about adaptability, accountability, and a whole bunch of other related topics to that. We will be right back in less than 1 minute. Stay tuned.
Are your employees feeling stuck and just showing up for a paycheck? Is your workforce working harder to get back to normal than adapting to the future? It's time to help them break their addiction to certainty and develop a growth mindset. Developed by one of the world's top-rated future of work thought leaders, AQ Plus Mindset is a powerful tool to help your employees embrace change, adapt faster, and grow on the job. Conveniently delivered to any smartphone or laptop in easy to digest 5 to 10 minute lessons. Managers can sit back and watch employee attitude shift towards growth and innovation in just 30 days. Are you ready to help your employees thrive in this ever-changing, never normal world? Encourage them to show more grit, resilience, adaptability, and unlock their potential? The journey to a growth-filled future starts with a growth mindset. Visit aqplusmindset.com or call 484-373-4300.
Everyone, welcome back to Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization, here with Jeff Matlow, executive coach, entrepreneur, podcaster, author, leadership guru. We're talking about accountability and adaptability. Across the bottom of the screen is rolling how you can get in touch with Jeff and get. He's got a masterclass which sold out. I don't know if I know you sold out the first class.
You sold out the first two. Actually,
first two, yeah. I was going to say, I knew you were on the verge of number two. So you can go to, I guess the best place to go to that is by titleonly.com. All right.
Yep, and then just click on courses, and
the
masterclass is right there at the top.
Yeah, and also sign up for his newsletter, and you can also get his podcast up there. Jeff, we're talking about adaptability, and certainly my focus is on the future of change and how people need to be more gritty and resilient and grow. And you just heard about growth mindset, which I believe is the underling of all of that. It's about mindset. You need to be willing to take chances, and even to be more accountable. People are going to have to take some chances, and they're going to make some mistakes. And just because they learn your 4 steps. It's not going to be perfect the first time they try it. Not everybody's going to respond that way, and people are going to need to tweak it. I guess what's that look like for you? I mean, as I go through the masterclass program, or just do it on their own. What are some of the challenges that you've seen, and what are some of the solutions to that? Because people are again, it's like even our politics. It's a divide. It's 50% get it, 50% don't.
Right. Yeah. The AQ plus the slogan there is adapt, growth, and thrive.
Adapt, growth, thrive. Right.
Yeah. And so that actually falls right in line with what I'm doing, and the part adapt is such a powerful word. Meaning, in order to adapt, it means you're doing something different, and you're learning how to ingrain that behavior in your daily activities, right? And one of the challenges that I see in my coaching practice are people who don't want to try something different, right? Because of fear, right? Their fear of getting out of their comfort zone, their fear of change. And the analogy I use is often downhill skiing. When you're downhill skiing, there's a very clear point where you're going too fast and you're out of control. And if you back off just a little, you're going too fast, but you're in control, right? And it's a very, very distinct point. And so my goal is to get people to move to that point where they're going too fast, but they're in control. So you're just above the comfort zone, but there's growth just above the comfort zone, right? And so nobody likes surprises, nobody likes conflict. And what I try to do is reduce those. So you reduce the risk. There's going to be no conflict here. There's going to be no surprises. In fact, that's the whole purpose in what I'm doing, is helping people create an environment where people feel safe. People feel safe to take chances. People feel safe to make risk. They feel safe to say the things that other people need to hear. And I think that is, it's humanity. Like, communication is a problem in general in humanity. And so that's what I'm working on with, and what I see is, let's just make communication a little bit easier. And by doing that, you can get people to adapt, grow, and thrive.
It's so interesting. You just brought in a couple things, so let me process some of it. But we came back to communication. So LinkedIn, and everybody else has these polls, but LinkedIn, came out with a poll of what are the most in-demand skills for 2024. And I was thrilled that adaptability was kind of not an outlier, but it was like, what's the number one skill of the moment? Okay, and it was adaptability. So it doesn't mean long term, not the ultimate solution, but of the moment was adaptability. But number one on the overall list, and this goes back, I've been in business for 40 some years. I've been in this business for 30 some years. Number one, communication. We've been talking about communication forever.
Right.
It's like, how do we communicate? I mean, I started my business using DISC, the ISC, and it was about, hey, it's to help people communicate, understand that people speak in different languages, not literally different languages, but different style, different paces. They use different words. They use different body language. There's a different tone. And it's like, hey, I agree with you said, but I hate the way you told me that. Okay, that's communication. Communication is just not the words. NLP, it says 10% of communication is the words you use. The rest of it's the tone and the pace and the volume and the pace. It's all those things. So, part of that, it's so interesting that you brought up that accountability is communication. I just published my newsletter article came out, and it was about the solution to helping people get more comfortable with adaptability is storytelling. It's like we need to relate that story. Telling somebody who's a fisherman who says, I don't care about the polar bears.
Right.
Or the ice caps melting. It's going to take, or, I don't want to bring politics in again, but, if our sea levels go up 1/8 of an inch over the next 10 years or an inch over the next 10 years, not a big deal to me. I mean, that doesn't seem like it's a big deal, except when they go to their fishing hole.
Right.
And there's garbage. It's polluted. It's garbage. There's no fish.
Right.
Or there's dead fish floating in it. Now it's impactful. How do you tell the story, which goes back to communication?
Completely. There's just humans are just bad at communicating. I think there's fear of conflict is such a big problem in it, in what I see in the workforce and in personal relationships, right? A lot of people don't want to say things because they feel like they're going to hurt people's feelings. A lot of people's feelings get hurt when they hear people say things. And so, it's how do you communicate effectively to create that safe environment? And in life, I'm reading a book called An Immense World, and it's actually about how animals and insects and other mammals perceive the world, and how humans assume that every other being perceives it the way we do. We mostly perceive it through vision, right? But not a lot of animals perceive it through vision. In fact, the dog is about smell and hearing, and their vision is kind of crappy. And it got me realizing of everybody's different in how they're perceiving the world. And so what is obvious to me when I communicate is may not be obvious to anybody else. And so over communicating, explaining with stories, I think stories are super important. Communication, humanity has done one thing right. It's storytelling through the generations. And doing talking in a way that people can connect with and understand on their own level. So I think your example is great about the fisherman. Right? Just talking about polar ice caps. I don't see. I'm in California. What polar ice caps? What do I care? But yeah, once the fish are gone, once the trash comes in, you got problems.
We unfortunately we're coming up toward the end. I every week I say I'm going to change the title of this show to the fast. Following your example, it's like the fastest podcast ever.
Right. Right.
It's amazing. It's like, wow. It's like, most people are doing podcasts for 15 or 20 minutes or maybe a half hour. And, ours run 45 to 50 minutes. And at the end of each one, it's like, oh, we could have gone on forever. So I usually like to conclude, kind of start wrapping it up with a question of was there a question you hoped we or something we talked about, or a question you hoped I asked you that I didn't?
So many questions come to mind, none of them that are relevant to this show. But I suppose if there were a question, it would be, what is one thing somebody can do to help make a change in their work? And I would say, do you want me to answer it, or do you just want the question?
Yeah, no, go ahead. I can think of, you start with number 2, because number 1 is sign up for your master class on mastering accountability.
Yeah, that was but I think a focus on understanding, a clarity on understanding where you need to be and what you need to do to be successful. It's one of the biggest problems in business these days, is people don't understand what their bosses believe that they need to do in order to be successful. So find out that and do it, right? Set yourself accountable however you need to achieve those main goals of what you need to do to be successful. The result will be, not only will you grow and you be successful, but the entire organization will rise up.
Which must be a reciprocal, going back to what you said before, is leaders need to really be clear on what the expectations are, what their goals are, because obviously if your priority changes every day, then my expectation changes every day as well. And it becomes a moving target. So synergy. I'm going to throw in one more question. So what happens? Let's say that accountability wins. Accountability is number 1. Adaptability is number 2. What happens with accountability without adaptability?
It doesn't work. You need adaptability in a broad sense.
Why? What doesn't work? How would you know the signs that somebody's accountable but not adaptable?
If they're accountable but they don't accept realistic change. So realistic change is AI, right? AI is a threat to every job, or it could be an opportunity for every job. So if you're ignoring that, that technology, you are not adaptable. And so understanding that, hey, listen, if priorities change, if the top priority changes every day, that's not good. That's too adaptable. But understanding the largest threats or the largest opportunities and being able to capitalize on them is incredibly important to be able to adapt to that. And then hold yourself accountable and hold the team accountable towards the goals and reaching that.
Yeah, the synergy between these two is, because just as you said, that is that, well, if your focus and your goal changes every day, but it can, because life is just changing. There's all these uncertainties. You're planning to go to work and there's an accident, you have to divert, or a bridge gives out, or there's a flood in the weather, or there are so many things and it seems to be relentless. It's not like we used to have one incident a month or a year or a decade, and now it's almost anywhere you turn, there's something. It may just be personal, or it could be global, right? But there's all these incidences, and so there's situational things that we need to adapt to. But the accountability is that there's still a bigger goal. I mean, there's still a bigger focus to reach, which goes back to what we were talking about before, about really defining what your purpose is, accepting accountability in the pathway. So an ongoing conversation. And by the way, just with adaptability without accountability, which is what my struggle has been, is stagnation.
Yeah.
Or you just you're going to barely, it's not even survive or cope. I mean, and a lot of people are in that position now. They're really struggling. Anxiety levels are high, stress levels are high, mental illness levels are high, depression's high. People are just struggling with doing one without the other. So
let me say, just to bring the synergy of them together, is accountability without adaptability is stagnation as well.
Yeah. And I somewhere, I think I wrote this in my article. It's like accountability and adaptability are like peanut butter and jelly. Each are great in their own, but together they create something magical. That's not
right.
PB&J. So super. We closed every week with a lightning round. This one will be interesting for you. Because one of the questions, one of the questions I always ask is, what's your go-to music when you need to kind of get in the zone? Who is it? What is it? What do you do?
So I'm just, this will reveal a little bit about me. I listen to everything. So if I'm focusing, it is Liquid Mind, which is like massage music, but this one artist. Or I listen to EDM beats. There's actually a DJ called Miss Monique from Ukraine who I listen to when I work.
Interesting. Those are no. I don't know if this will surprise you, Jeff, but we've never had those mentioned before.
I am one of a few people who listens to them.
So, yeah, I've got a pretty unique list too. Not quite as unique as that, but my Jerry, my wife, always says it's like you got like everything on there, from doo-wop to classical to Sinatra to rap.
I mean, on my general listening list, it goes everything from opera to hip hop, R&B, country, you name it.
Who's one person you'd like to meet and talk if you had a chance?
Do they need to be alive?
No.
Jesus. I want to know what is real about Jesus.
When I did my master's in leadership, one of them was spiritual leadership. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I'll get through that because I'm not a very spiritual, religious person. And it was fascinating. In fact, some of the books that I kept that are still on the shelf, I mean, going through having 3 degrees, you get lots of books. The books that are up there is, related to that.
Yeah, I think the historical perspective of Jesus, I'm fascinated by. Right, like
I would share that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, for different reasons. Yeah, absolutely. Good. Well, thanks, Jeff. Thanks for carving some time out. I'm sure this conversation is going to go on and on and on. Want to thank everybody for listening to Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization. Let me put up your information again. Make sure we got yours up. Any other ways? I was strolling across the bottom of the screen. You can go to your website by titleonly.com, thebestleadershipnewsletter.com. Connect with you on LinkedIn.
Connect with me on LinkedIn and whatever. I'm on all the socials. So whatever socials you're on. But I do a lot on LinkedIn, YouTube, and TikTok.
And most of that's through by titleonly.com. Is that right?
Yeah. It's actually through the Best Leadership Newsletter. So look for Best Leadership Newsletter, Best Leadership Podcast. But my name is attached to all of it.
Excellent. If you're not a member of Googleization Nation, please go to googlizationnation.com. And thank you again to Avanti for sponsoring this episode. Remember to go up to adaptabilitytoolkit.com/2024 everywhere work to download their most recent report about remote work, and the moods, the mindsets that are affecting that. And until next week, don't let the shift hit your plans.
Thanks for watching Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization. Be sure to listen to the podcast and follow us on YouTube. This show was produced and edited by Hilton Productions.